Have you ever thought, how come some people know it all? Are they lucky? Are they smarter? Are you dumb? In this video, we will cover 5 signs that show you may or may not have a low IQ. The first sign is concrete thinking. We all know that guy who refuses to see the middle ground in a conversation.
You are fake news. Sir, go ahead. Can you state?
To them, everything is either 100% right or 100% wrong. This is called concrete thinking. High intelligence requires the ability to handle those gray areas where two different things can be true at the same time. Psychologists have found that processing complex information takes a massive amount of mental energy. To save this energy, a lower capacity brain simplifies the world into basic opposites. Good or bad, friend or enemy, yes or no. It is essentially a survival mechanism for a mind that feels overwhelmed by complicated solutions. If someone is physically unable to see multiple perspectives during a debate, it is likely because their brain is too low to hold two competing ideas at once. Okay, so let me explain this the simplest way possible. Our brains basically have two modes. Psychologists call them System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. It's the answer that pops into your head instantly. System 2, on the other hand, is slower and takes effort. That's the part of your brain that goes, wait, let me actually think about this shit. Most people live almost entirely in System 1. Here's a classic example. A bat on the ball costs $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Most people immediately say 10 cents. But it's wrong. You don't fuck. The correct answer is 5 cents. What's happening isn't a math problem, it's a thinking problem. A lot of people never stop to question that first answer. They don't hit the metal brakes, they trust the gut reaction and move on. That's what psychologists call cognitive reflection. Accepting the first thought without checking if it actually makes sense. Daniel Kahneman talks about this in his book, Thinking, Fast and Slow. For System 2 to activate, you have to first realize that System 1 might be wrong. Smarter thinkers don't necessarily know more facts. They're just better at saying, hold on, let me double check that shit. They pause, they question, they don't rush to be done thinking. Weak metacognition. Let me put this in a simple way. There's a skill called metacognition. It's basically your brain's ability to step back and watch itself think. To notice when you're wrong, to catch your own mistakes, to say, yeah, that one's on me. A lot of people don't really have that switch turned on. Psychologists call this the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it sounds fancy, but the idea is actually very common. People who are bad at something often don't realize they're bad at it, because the same skills you need to do something well are the skills you need to judge yourself honestly. So when something goes wrong, they don't think, maybe I handled that poorly. They think that was bad luck, or those people were stupid, or the system is broken. And here's the important part, they're not lying. They genuinely cannot see their own role in the outcome. Their brain never zooms out far enough to check itself. Poor delay gratification. Think about intelligence like this. It's not just how fast you think, it's how far ahead your mind can go. That's something psychologists sometimes call mental time travel. It's your ability to picture future versions of yourself and make decisions for that person, not just the you of right now. Some people are really bad at this. There's a bias called present bias or delay discounting, and it shows up all the time in everyday life. It's where your brain says, I know this will screw me later, but it feels good now. So you take the smaller reward today instead of the bigger payoff tomorrow. Like extra sleep tomorrow? Nah, fuck that shit. Better job in a year? Nah, fuck that shit. Long-term health? Nah, fuck that shit. It's not because those people are lazy or careless. Their brain just struggles to stimulate the future clearly enough for it to feel real. Studies show that people with the lower cognitive scores tend to choose immediate rewards more often, even when waiting clearly benefits them. Their thinking stays anchored to the present moment. Smarter minds tend to pause and think, okay, how does this play out if I keep doing this shit? They can almost feel the consequences before they happen. That's why planning, saving, delaying gratification, all that boring stuff comes easier to them. So when someone keeps making choices that help them now but hurt them later, it's often not a character flaw. Let me explain the last sign in a really simple way. Some people have a hard time thinking outside of what they already know. If something has a normal use, That's the only way they can see it. Imagine your phone dies and you don't have a charger. A lot of people stop right there. No charger means no phone, end of story. But someone with more flexible thinking might look around and think, could I use a laptop, a power bank, someone else's cable? Could I charge it in the car? Same problem, different ways of seeing it. That's the difference. Another example. Say you're trying to open a stubborn jar. One person keeps twisting harder and harder, getting frustrated. Someone else taps the lid, runs it under hot water, or uses a towel for grip. They're not stronger.
Yeah, boy.
They're just more adaptable. People who struggle with this kind of thinking aren't unintelligent. They can follow instructions just fine. They do well when there's a clear rulebook. The problem shows up when the rules stop working. Their brain wants a correct method. If that method fails, they freeze. More intelligent minds naturally ask, what else could work here? They don't panic when the first idea fails. They switch angles. This matters a lot in real life because life almost never goes according to plan. Jobs change, plans fall apart, people surprise you. When your thinking is flexible, you adjust. When it isn't, every unexpected problem feels like a wall. So if you're someone who looks at problems and thinks, there has to be another way for this shit, that's not overthinking or being difficult. That's what separates people who cope from those who grow. So let's have this clear. IQ isn't a label that defines you. It's just a way to understand how your brain processes information. Some brains prefer fast, simple, and direct answers. Having a low IQ doesn't mean you can learn or succeed. It just means your brain often takes shortcuts. Once you recognize that, you can choose to pause, question your first reaction, and think a bit deeper. Awareness is what makes the difference.